Good afternoon. Welcome to Connections, and I'm your host, Pastor Kevin McGee of the Victory Temple Church of God in Christ. You're listening to us on IntellectualRadio.com. You can also listen to us on iHeartRadio. Connections is a show designed to keep you connected to the Christian community, so sit back and relax as we get connected. And if you wish to become a Connection sponsor, you can reach out to me at bishop1915@gmail.com, or you can simply inbox me on Facebook. Nature Sunshine. Have you set weight loss goals for 2019? Would you like a natural approach to weight loss? Do you want to see and feel changes immediately? Do you have do you take medication for high blood pressure, diabetes, asthma, fibromyalgia, cancer, or any other condition in your body? Do you have poor circulation, frequent colds, flu, or chronic fatigue? Or perhaps you just want to maintain a healthy body? Give Nature Sunshine a try. They have many products and plans that will assist you in losing weight or maintaining and improving your health the natural way. You can reach out to them at 708-302-5655. The Bedrock Movement affirms safety, comfort, dignity, awareness, and empowerment for Chicagoland street homeless. For any internship needs for school, community service that are mandated from the court, or you just want to volunteer assisting the street homeless, please call John Netherly at 773-567-5110. And today on Connections, we are going to talk about a serious, I call it an illness that affects everybody. It doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your culture, it doesn't matter your creed, your race. It affects everybody, and that is depression. We're going to talk about depression uncovered. There are a lot of things that people don't realize about depression. We have an idea of what it is, but many of us don't really know what it is and the extent or how detrimental it is to an individual. And so we have these fine young ladies who are going to give us some insight on this phenomenon called depression and possible ways in which we can receive assistance in overcoming depression. We have in the studio with us Maisha McCaskill, we have Michelle Nicholson, and we have Tanya Hogan. And we just thank God for you all being able to be with us. God bless. How's everybody this morning?
We're fine. Well, thank you for having us.
Good. Yes, thank you for having
Amen. Me. Amen. Listen, those of you that are watching by way of Facebook, you can, if you're watching on Facebook Live, if you want to make a comment to these young ladies, have any questions, you can type it in the comment field. And if you want to call in, you can call in at 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953 for any comments and questions regarding depression. You might have a loved one that's going through right now, or you might have gone through, or you might be in it right now and you want some help. You're at the end of your rope. You thought about doing yourself in. Suicide is never an option. So listen, we want to connect you with people and resources that can help you. And so again, type in your question or comment in the comment field, or you can give us a call at 708-223-8953. And again, thank you, ladies, for being here. We were scheduled to be on last month, and then that weather came in and it messed everybody up. But I had so many people that were disappointed.
Oh, wow.
And for us having to reschedule the show. But we're here today.
Yes, we are.
And we got a little better weather. All right. All right. One thing about Chicago, you never know how to prepare for the weather. All right. So before we get into talking about depression, I want each of you to take a few seconds or a moment to tell us a little bit about who you are. Let's start with you.
My name is Maisha McCaskill. I'm a motivational speaker, and also I work in the field of social service and working with individuals with mental illness and developmental disability.
My name is Michelle Nicholson. I have been working in the social services field for quite some time now, and I work with people with many types of disabilities.
Okay. Oh, my name is Tanya Hogan, and I do various things, but for this particular subject that we're talking about this afternoon, I also have been working with individuals with developmental disabilities, as well as mental health disorders. I am a therapist, so well versed in the area.
Awesome. We want you to all know that we have some people who are, as Tanya said, well versed in this. This is not your grandmama's, recipe on how to get past your depression. This is not, June bugs, idea of how to get over depression. these are people who have been trained. These are people who work in the field every day, and they can assist. They might not have all the answers, but they can definitely point you to the ones with the answers.
Yes, we can.
And so, again, we want to welcome you. So, let's talk about depression. Like I said, many people have uh, ideas about depression, and many times those ideas are kind of, it touches, but it just scratches the surface. It doesn't really deal with it. You have somebody who's at home and they're pulling down the shades, turning off all the lights, and they're sitting in the dark, and somebody come and say, "Oh, why are you in here sitting in the dark? Why don't you open up the windows, open up the shades and turn the lights on?" And they just don't get it that at that point, that's a warning sign that something might be going on. And you're depressed, just get up. You gotta go do something. Go dial yourself up. Go buy you something. Go shopping. Depression affects more than just surface emotions, surface feelings, but there's something that is heartfelt. It affects the heart. So why don't I don't know who want to do it. Give us the different categories or the different levels of depression.
Well, it's just one level of depression, but there are various types of depression. If you were to read up on it, it's about 7 or 9. But I think the most common one would be called major depression. So we can talk about that one, because if we talk about all 9, we'll take us all afternoon to talk about them. But major depression is your most common one, and it will fall under clinical depression. You do have regular depression that maybe all of us at one time or another have dealt with a couple of days of being depressed because of guilt, loss, or death or something like that. But that's not clinical depression. Clinical depression would be like a major depression. You have seasonal depression. You got a typical depression. So you got various kinds, but the most common one is major depression.
And to speak to what Tanya said, with there being so many types of depression, and the major depression being the number one, some people overlook the seasonal depression. They don't understand that people have depression at certain times of the year. When we say seasonal, some people get it only at the holiday season. They go in it at the same time of the year, and they actually come out at the same time of the year. And people often forget that depression hurts. It not only hurts the person who's suffering from it, it also affects the people who are around that person or the people who they love and have contact with daily.
And also, depression is a chemically imbalance in the brain. And a lot of people feel that they can just talk to their friend and think they can just jump out of it. But the best thing you can do for your friend is get them help.
Awesome. And I'm glad that you mentioned the different types, especially that seasonal. We have just ended the Valentine's Day, holiday, if you want to call it. It's not a holiday, but so many people go into depression around Valentine's Day. Everybody got somebody except for me. I don't have nobody, and they go through the same thing with Christmas, their birthdays, and I have a poem that I'm going to play later on at the 12:30 time frame that actually addresses the seasonal type of depression. But how do you recognize depression on a person? What are the signs? How do you detect it?
There are so many different signs. Some people become withdrawn, as you said earlier. Some people really become withdrawn. They don't talk to their family, their friends. Some people don't shower. They don't cut their hair. They're just, they don't eat. It affects everybody totally different.
Weight loss, weight gain, feeling hopeless, sleep, don't want to come outside. It's a lot of different ways. Like she said, it affects people differently.
Even lack of interest in normal activities, it affects. It's actually a mood disorder. So it affects your the way you think, the way you feel, how you interact with people. You might lose interest in daily activities such as taking a shower, keeping yourself, your daily hygiene, relationships. You don't want to talk to anyone, and they're red flags, and it's something that should not be ignored. So it is so many variations to depression, but the most common one again is major. You do have seasonal, but the one thing about seasonal, I don't want no one to be confused about that. With seasonal, it has to be consistent. Everybody might get a little depressed over Valentine's Day, but do the person get but it has to last more than one day. You see what I'm saying? And consistent every year. Every year. I'm not saying one, after they meet someone and this year they don't have anyone and next year they meet someone, they're not depressed. It has to be a cycle, and it has to be consistent.
And especially if they haven't had a Valentine's date in 10 years, they probably would be. I know I'd be depressed.
But it won't last long.
But it won't
and
last
you don't have
long.
to take medication for it.
Now here's the thing, and one thing I found out, you have to be able to find some humor in everything.
You do.
Otherwise, you would drive yourself crazy.
Absolutely.
And we had a little laugh about that being single for every 10 years, but there are people out there, they're reminded that they don't have anyone around Valentine's Day, sweetest day. Throughout the year, they can deal with it. They can hide, they can put other things to distract them. But when they get to that Valentine's Day, first of all, when they go in the store at the end of January, or at the end of the, beginning of January, and they look and see all this red, all these hearts, all this candy, all these teddy bears, or at the beginning of October, or whenever sweetest day is, and they see all this stuff, it's like, oh, I don't have anybody again.
Right.
They're scrambling around trying to see, making calls. What you doing on February the 14th? Oh, you got something? Okay. Can we just hang out? You don't have to be my Valentine. I just don't want to be alone on that day.
Right.
And so I know what you mean. And but you say it won't be long.
It won't be long.
You're being prophetic. See, all of you that's out there and you've been single for 10 years, it won't be long.
Hold on now. Because see if you have feelings of unworthiness, guilt, can't concentrate, suicide, death, those are signs of really being depressed. If you're not depressed and thoughts of suicide and want to kill yourself and you don't have a plan, you're okay for this Valentine's Day. You're okay.
Gotcha.
So it's more how can I say, it's worse than that. You see what I'm saying? It's something that, you really have to be observant of all the signs. But you can get over Valentine's Day and you find on Friday the 15th, you're good. You understand what I'm saying?
Right,
so
right.
It's more major than that. It's a little bit more complicated.
Now here's another question I want to throw out at you to piggyback off that. We talked about the different signs, not showering, your change in behavior. But suppose no one exhibits that sign. Suppose you have that man or that woman, they're dressed to the T. They go through their normal routine. Then they get to work. They're smiling. They're jovial and everything. They get to church. Everything's fine. But things don't break down until they get home. So all of the outward signs that you normally would look for, you don't see them present in that person. But you find out that maybe they committed suicide and then you find out, there were things in the home, there were, scribblings, talk about how depressed they were. So what do you do when you don't, how, in other words, can you always detect depression on an individual?
If you know them personally, you know their baseline. So you have to look at the subtle signs that they usually don't do and pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes people say little things when they're actually asking for help. And people overlook just that little thing that they said. It's just one word. It could be one trigger word that they've said. And people have a tendency to overlook that. They don't pay any attention. And like you said, when you find the letter or you find out that they were depressed because they committed suicide or whatever, then you would think back to, they did say this. They were actually crying out for help.
Okay. And the reason I ask is because I've known several individuals to admit that they suffered from depression in times past, but they were able to put on a mask and they were able to act it out. And no one knew. It was only because they sought help. They pulled themselves together after they thought about heavily committing suicide. They realized, I can't go out like this. Then they went and sought help for themselves. But they made up in their mind that they weren't going to give out any indication that things were not normal.
Yeah.
And so that's why I put that out there, because I've known just recently some people to pass, and no signs of suicide, but broken hearts, due to one situation. And that's all I can say. Just we believe the person passed because of a broken heart. Went into depression and just but all the outward signs were not there.
Yeah.
You know.
That can happen too. I
And
think
then-
that's. Go ahead.
And then sometimes people don't know what they're looking for.
Right.
That there are signs, but they don't know. They don't recognize the sign.
Okay.
And that usually there's somebody that's usually crying out for help.
Yeah. I think too, one of the one of the troubling things about our culture, our Black culture, is that as African Americans, we tend to shy away from individuals that are mentally ill. We know all the physical illnesses, but we tend to shy away from those that have mental illness, or we deny it or we ignore it. And so a lot of times we might be crying out for help. And, a loved one or a family or friend be crying out for help, but we'll say, oh, they'll be all right. They'll grow out of it. That's the excuses that we make. And if people have a relationship with just one person, I'm sure there's maybe one person that recognize one or two flags. You know what I'm saying? But we tend to ignore it, or they'll be okay. They're just going through something. And we as African Americans, we need to stop doing that, because a lot of other cultures, they run to the psychiatrist, they run to get counseling, they run to the hospital. But we as African Americans, we pull back from it because we're afraid of the unknown.
Amen. Shout out to those that are watching on Facebook Live. My mother's watching. Tiffany Purnell, Pastor Kenneth Lockhart, Lynn Polite, Gloria Wilson. God bless all of you that's watching. Again, if anybody have any comments, you can put it in the comment field. Or if you know firsthand about depression, maybe you've gone through it and you want to just offer, you want to say something, you can call in at 708-223-8953. Or if you have a question for these young ladies, you can do so as well. Now, I'm finding that depression hits at any age. When I was a kid, you hear depression, first of all, trying to understand what depression was, and it looked like it only affected those that were older. But in this day and time, we find a lot of young people, a lot of children are suffering from depression. And because the parents are not familiar with depression, we call it a phase. They're just going through something, and they just need to do something. They're just bored. We need to find out something to do. But they don't understand that there are many things that young people are going through. As a former teacher, I've talked to young people, and if you're living in a society, because society is different than it was when we were coming up.
Absolutely.
When we were coming up, we went to school, we went home, went outside to play. Didn't have to worry about drive-by shootings. Didn't have to worry about a lot of that stuff. Now, the norm for the young people, they get up, they hope to make it to school. They get into school. They hope to be able to survive in the school, praying that there's no active shooter in the school. Or when they get to school, they find out that their friend just was shot down last night. And that's normal for them now. That's normalcy in their lives. And when you ask the average teenager, what do they think their life expectancy is going to be? They say, we really don't know. Because we don't know if we're going to make it. And that's something that was unheard of when we were younger. I'm going to live to be 80 years old. I'm going to live to be 90. Now the life expectancy of the generally for youth of today, you really can't put a number on it, because they're dropping left and right. And if it's not the hand of someone else, it's by their own hand. So how do we, because I believe that the warning signs for children are different than the warning signs for adults. Adults, we have a way of knowing how to kind of mask it, but children might act out in school. So what are some of those warning signs that we should be looking at in our children versus adults? Are there any different warning signs?
Isolation is
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Isolation from family. You could be in the same house with your family, but you always want to be in your room with the lights out. Isolation is really one, a definite one. Being alone, don't want to be with family, don't want to come down to, to eat. I don't know if families still do that, but but just total isolation, and and they don't do very well at school. Their
Yeah.
grades drop. Don't want to be in any extracurricular activities. Those things are not normal. Any teenager wants to be out. They want to hang with friends. They want to, they want to do activities. They just, that's how young people are.
Yeah.
I mean, on the average.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
You
man.
got shy teenagers, but I'm just saying, but they don't mind interacting. But when you don't want to interact and you always want to isolate, that could be a red flag for young people.
Or rebellion. They may
Yeah.
feel that their parents don't understand them or what they're
Yeah.
going through
Yeah.
at school.
Yeah.
So they just rebel everything.
And the thing is, and I try to tell teenagers, I'm like, your parents do understand what you're going through. It's just on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's something we'll never be able to relate to. Like I said, going to school and hearing that your best friend just got killed last night, or
Yeah.
living with the fear that, hearing that announcement on the intercom, lock your doors. There's a shooter in the school.
Yeah.
I never forget. About a couple of years ago, I forgot which college campus it was, but I had two friends who had kids at the college campus, and they were miles, hundreds of miles away. And just my one friend, he comes on the show every once in a while. We do a gospel segment. His son wanted to know, was telling his dad, I got friends. I'm gonna see if I can get them, into the room. He said, no, you stay right where you are. But just the stress and the strain of that lifestyle can be depressing to anyone. So and I give kudos to you who have to deal with individuals such as this, because you have to be able to get through to them. You have to be able to offer ideas to help them, resources to help them. So in other words, you got to number one, gain their trust,
Yeah.
and then let them know that, hey, there is a different way that you can go.
Yeah.
All right. So how effective, and because as I get younger, notice as I get younger, I'm really not trusting in medicine as much as I used to.
Oh, medication. Yeah.
And again, as a former teacher, um, I see so many cases where you have a child that's acting out, quote unquote, acting out, going through something, and they prescribe them medication. They're just ADD. Give them some Ritalin, or something. I'm like, no, maybe there might be a deep-seated issue you need to address. Maybe they're going through a stage of depression. But do we want to do we want to just throw medicine? Is that the first line of defense? Medicating our young people, medicating anybody. Is that always the first line of defense?
No, I would say no. A lot of times they start out with the therapy piece, so they can see what's wrong with them. They'll start out with the psychologist versus the psychiatrist, and do the therapy and try to talk about it and try to see if there's an underlying issue before the medication is actually prescribed.
Okay.
And I think medication should be the last resort. But in some cases, if you deal with people that have dealt with people with mental illness, sometimes they need that to keep an imbalance in their life. But I don't necessarily say that will be the first resort. But I do think that medication is needed in some cases.
Yeah.
Amen.
I think that with when you're trying to deal with any type of mental health disorder, it should be a collaboration of things. It could be medication, but let me name them all. Medication, it could be group therapy, it could be individual therapy, it could be different. I think now more than ever, our Black churches need to have some type of ministry that that encompasses mental illness and address it, especially in the inner city, because our youth and our adults deal with a lot of trauma and traumatic experience, which can onset any type of depression. But with medication, it's going to be a while before they find the right thing to help you. You're going to be a guinea pig.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
and they might not find the right one. It could take years. I've had a couple of friends that deal with major depression in their adult hood, and it took about 10, 15 years for the doctor to find the right kind of medication to bring them balance. So medication is not always the right answer. It might help you, but I think you need to find what your best therapy is and your best help is, and that's different for every individual.
Gotcha. Annette Harris, who hosts a show here on Wednesdays called Mind, Body, and Soul, she majored in psychology. She says psychologists and therapists will focus on therapy, and psychiatrists will focus on meds if necessary. And you, I know, I like what you said. You'll be a guinea pig. Many of us, we're guinea pigs now, just going through our regular doctors. They prescribe something. You go back about a month later, doctor, this didn't work. Okay, well, let me try this. My doctor, after he said, did we try this already? I'm like, you should know, you have my chart. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to look at it this way too. I mean, when you go to a doctor and they prescribe you, they're doing what they supposed to do. They want to make money. Medication, when they prescribe you medication, they're making money off of that. So a lot of times you might not even need that particular medication. You might not need that much, but they just want you to come back. And this is my idea. There might be some doctors out there that don't, all of them are not the same, but I'm just saying that's how they make their money.
And I agree, because I was literally in a doctor's office just being treated for something. You know how you have the pharmaceutical reps come in, they give them the samples, and they were talking to the doctor before they called me in the back. They were talking to the doctor and said, well, try this and try this, and try this. And so he took a bunch of samples, and I was looking at the packages. So as I was leaving, he said, you know what, I want you to try this. I said, something that you haven't even tried?
Yeah, because they hope that it'll work for you. You can come back and then they'll get that particular medication for free next time or something like that. So they push it to see if it'll work for you. If it do, then they're glad, they're happy. And so are the pharmaceuticals.
I like what Annette says. She says, this is something the church needs to address.
Yes, it does.
They need to be able to understand this, and it needs to be addressed straight on. And that's something that we try to do at Victory Temple. And I've taught on this in Bible class. Depression is something that is detrimental to everybody. Yeah. I don't care if you are number 45, Donald Trump. Let me tell you something. That man depressed because he's in a job he doesn't know what he's doing. He's depressed. I don't care if you are. That's a whole nother story. I'm gonna do a show about that.
Right.
I'm gonna do a show about number 45. I don't call him president. I call him number 45. It doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates. It doesn't matter if you're the homeless person on the streets. Depression hits all of us. My question to you, before we go to our break, my question is this. Because I did hear somebody say, well, if you haven't been there, you really don't know. Have any of you ever gone through depression?
I have.
Okay. And so you're able to identify, because I found out that I can talk to somebody who's been drug addicted and try to give them resources, but unless I've been there to really understand what does it feel like to go through, or when there's nobody there and that those drugs are your escape, I really can't deal with them on that level because I've never been there. But if I've gone through it, then I can kind of relate to where they're coming from. A lot of times we don't see where the individual is coming from. We just have all the solutions. We try this, but we don't understand what's going on in their world. We don't understand the chaos that's going on in their mind. So sometimes many times it's good to have people who have been in that, to be able to relate to them. Not always, because sometimes people that didn't always make the right decisions. But it's sometimes good to have somebody on that team that knows what that individual is going through. Because sometimes we say, well, they're just not trying hard enough. Well, you don't know what it's going to take for them, for that person, because they might be different than the other person. So hey, why don't we do this? We're gonna go to we're gonna play the poem. That's what we're gonna do, and then we're gonna come right back after the poem. Well, we're gonna take a quick 2-minute break after the poem and come right back. I wrote this, and I featured this on the Net show. It's called sad. Life moves on, and so do I, even though I feel as if my feet were encased in cement, causing me great stress to persevere. It's been almost a year, yet the first time that I have to celebrate these festive days without you, opening wounds that were just about healed, yet still sore, but now the scab has been ripped away and the hurt is fresh in my mind. I don't feel thankful this Thanksgiving, and my Christmas won't be so merry. And sure, everyone is telling me to turn it over to Jesus, but maybe, just maybe, I'm not ready to. Because if I turn it over to Jesus, I may stop crying. If I turn it over, I may stop losing sleep. If I turn it over, I may think of only the good times and forget about the hurt. So maybe I choose not to be healed just yet, because I feel like I am betraying you by moving on with my life, and I'm afraid I will forget what you look and sound like. So you see, it's not easy to let go, yet holding on is consuming me, and I'm being torn between 2 points. What do I do? Let go or hold on? Can somebody, anybody, help me?
I don't believe that I gotta stay sick when God can heal. I don't believe that I gotta stay broke when God can bless. No. I don't believe that I gotta stay hurt. My God's too real. Lord, I believe in you. Lord, I believe in you. Lord, I believe in you. Lord, I believe. I don't believe that I gotta stay sick when God can heal. I don't believe it. No. When God can bless. I don't believe it. No. That I gotta stay hurt. My God's too real. Lord, I believe in you. Lord, I believe. Lord, I believe in you. Lord, I believe. I'm a believer. I've been washed in the blood of the Lamb. You forgave me of my sin. You forgave me of my sin. And I'll never let you go. Never let go of your hand. Oh Lord, I know that I do. Oh Lord, I believe.
Welcome back to Connections. We're talking about Depression Uncovered, and we just played the poem that I wrote. Anybody have any thoughts on that before we move forward on the poem itself? Maybe you know some people who were in that kind of situation. Anybody have anything?
It sounds like that person was really, really devastated, and if you, I heard the holiday was probably that difficult time that he was having, and to the fact that you could hear the desperation and the despair in his voice. He didn't want to live. He just felt like the most wonderful thing that he had was no longer there. So you can hear the desperation and almost like he didn't want to live anymore. You can heard it in his voice.
Thank you. That was me. Annette says, I'm finally playing spoken word on my show. I always give her the stuff. I let it play on her show. I don't play anything on my show. But again, we talked about the seasonal. We talked about the major depression and all of that. What resources are available to people? If you know someone suffering from depression, what is the first step in getting them help?
Can I say something? The first thing that the person has to do is realize that they need help. You can't help somebody that don't want to be helped. They have to realize that they have a problem and they have not been able to fight through it so it'll pass. When you can't fight through it and it passes and you get back to your normal life, you know that you have something worse than just a sad time or a sad day. So first you have to recognize that you have a problem and you need help.
Okay. All right. So I'm coming to you guys. Look, I don't want to. I don't think I can make it. I can't go on. I lost my job. When I lost my job, I lost my house. I lost my house. Everybody closed the door on me. The folks that I used to help, they don't have it. They have no help for me. Um, my health is failing. I'm having all kinds of all my money is gone, and I don't want to get up in the morning. I pull the shades down. I thought about how great it would be if I just killed myself, but then realized my loved one wouldn't have any money because I ain't got no money. I didn't have an insurance policy, and so that bring more harm to them. I don't know what to do. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I just don't want to make it. I'm coming to you. What can you do for me? Somebody told me, I heard on the radio show Connection that the first step was to acknowledge that I'm going through some depression, and I got some major depression because I feel like sometimes I just want to take out myself as well as those that help to hurt me. I want to take everybody out. What do I do? I'm asking you, Maisha, Michelle, and Tanya, if I don't get some help, somebody gonna get hurt.
The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be listening. I'm not gonna be judgmental as far as whatever they're saying. And then the third thing, I'm gonna get them help.
Come close to them.
The third thing, I'm gonna get them help. If we need to reach out to a doctor to help them, someone they can talk to, a counselor, a professional, that's what I'm gonna do with them. I'm not gonna leave them there alone at that stage.
Now, how you gonna help me? Okay. Say I'm playing devil's advocate now. Say I'm the depressed individual. Okay, you gonna help me? You gonna give it to the doctor? The doctor. I'm not crazy. I'm just depressed.
Well, I would say, I understand, your current situation. You may not feel that you're upset, but let's call the hospital. Let's call 911 and see what's going on. Maybe it's something going on with you chemically that I don't know and you're not aware of that's got you unbalanced.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not my place to be a judgment or a doctor. I'm not a professional. So let's just get checked out. It could be something going wrong in your body that we're not aware of. And if the doctor says that you're cleared, then you're cleared. So will you be able to work with me with that?
You just don't know what I'm going through. You never been here. You don't know what I'm facing every day. Every time I look in the mirror, I hate who I see. You just don't know what it's like.
Well, I'm here.
So when you get to the doctor, you need to explain to the doctor the same thing that you're telling me so they can get you the help you need. They can do the proper test, blood test, or whatever, to point you in the right direction to get you the help that you need. Because again, the first step to getting that help is admitting that you need it. And that's what you did. So you just need to follow through with it to continue to get that help.
What you got to say, Tanya?
What I have to say is, I always have something to say, but you know what? Those words that you said about harming yourself and others, those are red flags. And they have suicide and prevention hotline numbers. You might not even want to go to the hospital. So I would talk calmly to you to try to calm you down and try to relate with you first, because we can't do anything for you if you're upset. So I would try to identify with you, and there are certain things that you could do to calm a person down and get them to thinking, to take the attention off of them, and to show some compassion. Let them know I'm going to be there. I'm going to help you. So you talk calm to them. Then you could, if you don't want to go to the hospital, I can call the suicide prevention hotline number, because first of all you said you want to hurt yourself, and I don't want you to hurt me. I want to live. So there's other things that you can do. And then if there's an option of going to the hospital, we would do that. But first of all, I got to get you calm, and I got to get the attention off of you. And then I got to make sense to you, and so that we can make some sound decisions, because that suicide number is the next thing we have to call. And if you really want to hurt someone, though, that's a red flag too. We got to do something. That's the next step. So yeah, but first I got to calm you down.
Okay. All right.
Because you'll grab a knife or something, try to stab you. I'm not trying to die today.
Absolutely.
You talk like my mama. See, my mom was always able to call me and talk me down. Okay, I listen to you. All right. So, Beatrice Carter, who's listening, she said you must do all you can to convince that person that this is temporary, and take them to a professional that can help them.
Absolutely.
Don't just drop them off.
No,
Mm-mm.
no.
Stick in there with them.
Yes.
And Annette says the quickest way to get help is to admit you need it. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It was comical, but there are people out there like
Oh, yeah,
this.
every day.
They're
Every
out
day.
there.
Every
They're
day.
looking because their support system they used to have is no longer there.
Yeah.
And chances are they've been going through quite some time, but they had a support system.
Yes.
And this is why we talked about the church needs to be able to address this. Um, the Bible says first natural then spiritual. First, we get them some help on the natural side, so that we'll be able to address them on the spiritual side. Everything is not just because when they come to you talking about this, that, and other. Yeah, it might be a spirit, but it's a spirit that we might not be able to handle right now.
Right.
So we need to deal with the clinical side first.
Yes.
Then we'll deal with the spiritual.
Yes.
They just got a demon in them, yeah. But if you can't cast that demon out, then you go get them some help.
Yeah, I think that the church aspect is very key, because it helped me. That's why I say everyone has to find their therapy. I deal with a mental health disorder myself, and I don't take meds for it. But I did a collaborate of things, and the church was a part of my therapy. No, every mental health issue is not a demon, but that environment, that atmosphere, going to church, and that thing of getting hands laid on, and all of those things, it do help. It do help. And then God will give you a strategy about what you need to do to take care of you, because you're right. Everyone does not have to take meds. And I'm a testimony of that.
Mm-hmm. More and more people are committing suicide. There has to be a way, and we just talked about that suicide prevention hotline. There has to be a way in which not only do we see recognize the signs of depression, we recognize the sign when they are thinking about going to that extreme. When at the first talk of I thought about killing myself. Is that when we really need to get help right there and there?
Oh,
yes.
Because sometimes the enemy just bring a thought to your mind. The devil said you'd be better off dead, but it's not necessarily because that has come on my mind. The devil said, you'd be better off dead. And I told the devil, I ain't ready to die. I mean, but when they dwell on it, when they start to really, draw pictures of, how you watch the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner show, and Wile E. Coyote draw the diagram of how he was gonna kill, so you can't really kill yourself. So what you do, you draw a diagram. If I sit in this chair and I have this string, set to drop this thing on my head, when you start making plans on how you could commit suicide, or how you could cause such a scene where you can get the police to take you out, it's really gone too far now. And so, those of you that's watching and that's listening, you need to understand that suicide is real. Depression is real. Depression will lead to suicide or other harmful acts. Depression is not just simply a byproduct of stress and strain, but depression is deeper than that. And you're not a hostage negotiator. The average person cannot talk a person down from suicide. They need professional help. They need someone who is educated, someone who is experienced in dealing with suicide. Yes, we do believe in the power of God's word. We believe in the power of God, and we use that in conjunction with whatever natural means that the Lord allows us or He directs us to go to. And so that's what we want to make sure everybody knows. God bless Robin Fountain. She said, we are finally learning how to deal with it. Yeah, a lot of people out there, they don't know how to deal with it. They don't have anyone to tell them, but first you got to recognize this is what you're going through. And then you need to get to somebody that can help you. But they don't have that, because we're always told that, well, just pray about it, honey. Just pray. Okay, well, if I don't have a strength enough to pray, Just pray.
Yeah.
Just ask the Lord to help you.
It's true.
Yeah, but the Lord's helping you might be directing you to
Yeah.
an individual or
Yeah.
directing you to a center or
Yeah.
someone that can help you.
Yes.
All right. So, what is the impact that you wish to have on people um, that you come in contact with? Let's go down the line. Let's start with the
Start with
boss
me.
lady.
I think, in speaking on the subject that we're speaking on today, I think is very, very critical nowadays, in this, in the environment that we live in now, that especially in the inner city. This is a passion of mine and something that's really been on my heart. I work for an organization that goes into churches and enlightening them about the different types of mental health disorders in their inner city because of the tragedy and all the trauma and things that's going on in the city. And families are hurting and they're dealing with a lot of mental health things that's going on. And these people are flocking to the local church. So the church, and I congratulate you, Pastor, for doing stuff like this, because it is the intensity has increased. And we need to really address it. And a lot of the people need to, and it needs to be addressed in the local church because that's where we go. Black people go to church. And it needs to be addressed in the church. We need to find different resources in the church to direct them to professionals, and to be able to maybe have someone on staff to be able to say, you know what, you might be dealing with something a little bit more, harmful, or than some regular sadness. Just be able to recognize certain signs and then be able to refer them out. And that's a passion of mine, and I congratulate you for doing stuff like this, because this is something that we don't talk about, and we definitely don't talk about it in the church. And like you said, the way we're going to address it is we just going to pray it out, which might be one of the strategies. It helped me definitely, but there might be other things that person need. One thing don't fit all.
That's true.
We try to fit in everything, but
One size don't fit
one
all.
size does not fit all.
Remember that, people who are. No mind.
So I, this is really a passion of mine, and I really believe that, shows like this will catapult, and we'll do more of this because it's really needed, especially in the Black church.
Right, Michelle, what kind of impact you want to have?
I just want to help people who don't have a full understanding of depression, help them get the full understanding. And I agree with what Tanya said, that people do run to the church. They run to the churches, but when the churches doesn't have a full understanding, they can't help.
Yeah, that's true.
They just feel like, oh, she'll be okay. Sit her in the corner. She may just have a spirit. Sit over there. She'll be all right. Calm down, baby. But that's not really what it's about. And, I too feel that churches should offer workshops or have people come in to help understand, to educate the congregation and everybody, because everybody is going through something right now, and it seems that depression just happens to be the biggest thing. Because just yesterday, the man killed the people in Aurora. He was depressed, and we miss a lot of the trigger words. We miss a lot of things because we have a lack of knowledge.
Yes.
So I would like to just help people understand, help people get a better understanding of how to deal and help people with depression.
Okay, nice.
I agree with everything these young ladies said. I think that I just want to bring self-awareness to the mental illness in the communities, to the youth, that it's okay to talk about things. You don't have to keep it balled up inside and just keep it to yourself. It's okay to get help. And I just want to bring self-awareness to, have a platform like this to talk about different issues. Because like Tanya said and Michelle, we don't talk about this stuff in the Black community at all. We just keep it buried.
Because we're taught in the Black community, you don't say anything that goes on in your house.
That's right.
Air your dirty laundry.
That's right.
And then we say, we don't have any crazy folks in our family.
That's true.
Because we equate it to being crazy.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to talk about it because number one, we don't know how to deal with it.
Exactly.
And then we say, people that go to therapists and stuff, only the white folks do that. Black folks don't do that. Well, maybe more of us will be further along if we did.
That's why there are so many of our people walking down the street, because they were shunned away, because we didn't have the knowledge or the resources, and we didn't try to reach out to get the resources or the knowledge to help our people.
Yeah.
And that's why you see so many of them walking down the street talking to themselves and doing so many other things, because they were never helped or never got what they needed to get the help.
Yeah, our
The
ignorance is
guidance.
killing us.
Yeah.
Our
Yes.
ignorance is killing
Yes.
That's
us.
true.
I'm reading what Annette posted. She said we have to understand is that these individuals are not thinking rationally, hence the term mentally ill. With that in mind, getting them to go get help may or may not be welcomed by them. And um, let's see, it may be a fight because of denial or other things. There's a certain way we must talk to them.
Yes.
And she said you touched on it when you said you have to get them to calm down first.
Yes.
All right. And then Robin Fountain said, I was left alone in the church to deal with it and my family members
Mhm.
after my divorce.
Mhm.
That's why it's my passion and profession now.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Lindo Sugg says, I believe mental health has to do with demonic forces attacking a person mentally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It manifests in the mind.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to deal with it. Again, first natural, then spiritual. I believe that churches that are blessed to have counselors as
Mhm.
members that deal with clinical issues,
Mhm.
those same counselors can be tapped
Yes.
to be a help to the body.
Yeah.
If you have people in your church that deals with this, why not tap them to conduct a workshop?
Yeah.
Why not tap them to be on staff? Give them a stipend, be on staff, so that in the case these arise, especially at the death of a loved one.
Yeah.
You just had the big funeral for
Yeah.
for
Depression, yeah.
Aunt Lucy,
Yeah.
That's true.
and now her daughter can't seem to make it.
Yeah.
She's a member of the congregation.
Yeah.
You tell her, you tell Lucy's daughter, look, we have a grief counselor that want to
Yeah.
help you through this step.
Yeah.
Everybody, regardless of whether you think they need it or not, everybody should be assigned a grief counselor after
Yeah.
a death, because we don't
Exactly.
know, and they don't know how the death is going to affect them 3 months down the line.
That's so very important. We need to focus on the totality of the person. But usually churches are good for having funerals, but we don't. But then we leave them alone. We don't take them a step further. They go home and they deal with the grief and the separation, and it affects them mentally. And the enemy will come in and manifest that thing, and you don't know where it will take them. So you're right. We have to follow them all the way through. And what is so phenomenal is that Christian and that Christian counselor or therapist in that church can bring the natural and the spiritual together and implement the word of God, as well as give them some natural help. That's powerful. And when you have that in the church, it really it will take the church a long way.
The church is to deal with everything holistically, an individual holistically, naturally, and spiritually. And so when that person who suffered the death, we love to say at the end of the funeral, if there's anything you need from us, just let us know.
Yeah.
Well, we need to follow up. We need to be proactive in that, because they might not have the strength, or they might be too depressed to call us, say, Pastor, I need some help. No, we need to assign people to check on Sister Jones, check on Sister Salome, check on Brother Rufus, and see how they're doing. And let's go by there and let's go pray with them. And because that open door of compassion will go further along than just saying, just call us if you need us. No, they need you. They're going through.
Right.
They need you.
Yeah. That's ministry outside
and that's
church.
ministry.
Yes.
That's ministry.
Yeah.
And it's ministry outside of church, but within your body, because they're people of your church.
Yeah.
And so we have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And actually, one thing you mentioned, a workshop. I'm putting together a workshop later on in the year with a group, one of my youth groups. And that's one of the tracks that I was contemplating putting in is depression.
Phenomenal.
And so I think I will, because my counterpart, she is a survivor of depression.
Awesome.
And I was hoping she was going to call in, Tiffany, but we're out of time now. But we just wanted to thank God. Give a shout out to your church homes.
Go ahead.
Anybody? Where y'all go to church? Y'all go to church? We black. Y'all go to
New
church?
Miracle Temple, Bishop Perry Williams. I'm sorry, Apostle Perry Williams Jr.
A Power and Light Evangelistic Church, Apostle Benny Dozier and Geraldine Dozier.
John Hannah.
Oh, you go to Pastor John Hannah, New Life Covenant. Amen. So we thank God because we have ladies who are not only educated in this on the natural side, but they can also, because they're believers, they can also recommend or deal with it on the spiritual side as well, or point you to who can deal with. I know your pastor deals with this subject, Pastor John Haddam, because I've heard him talk about it before. I know Apostle Perry Williams, amen. And so we just thank God for you all being able to come on the show and address this situation. And this won't be the only show that we'll deal with depression on, because depression is ongoing. So I think that our awareness should be ongoing. Is there a national month of depression? Everybody got a
I'm sure
national
it
month.
I'm
is.
sure. I
I
know
just
it's
don't know.
I'm gonna
suicide
find out
month.
if there is, and that's all we're gonna do that month, is talk about
That'll be great.
depression on different levels.
Yeah.
But we just thank God. Feel free to join Victory Temple every Sunday morning. We roll early, y'all, 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. We're located at 2000 West Roosevelt Road in the village of Broadview, Illinois, inside of the Community Presbyterian Church building. And feel free to be with us. We just had a wonderful church anniversary on this past week. Amen. Celebrating 4 years in the church ministry. And so we just thank God. Thank God for all of you that's watching on Facebook Live. Annette, Harris, Wanda, Evangelist Sue Allen. God bless everybody. Listen, if you are going through, or somebody's going through depression, and you get a chance to type in your comment or you ask your question, go ahead and do that even after we go off the air, and I will make sure that we get those questions and thoughts addressed. So feel all of you that's watching on Facebook Live. All right, so thank you, ladies, for
Thank
being
you
with
for
us
having us.
Thank you for having us.
on the connection, thinking of little old me and wanting to be on my little old show.
It was
And I
great.
appreciate you. And again, all of you that's watching by way of Facebook Live, YouTube, and listen on IntellectualRadio.com, tune in every Saturday from 12 to 1 on Connections. God bless you. God keep you. See you next week. I don't believe that I got to stay hurt. I got to Lord, I believe in you. Lord, I believe in you. Lord, I believe in you. Lord, I believe. I don't believe it. Yeah. That I got to stay sick when God can heal.